Hey guys, in this video I'd like to talk a little bit about Notan. Now, what is Notan? It's a Japanese design concept involving the play and placement of light and dark as are placed next to each other in art and imagery. It basically just means that you're using black and white, or dark and light, to create your designs and compositions. And I love Japanese design, and I figure anything that they come up with, I am going to listen to. So how are we going to use this in our work? Well, you've all probably heard of thumbnails using 3-4 values from dark to light, but this is a boiled down version of it. We're actually going to create designs and compositions using just 2 values, black and white. And you'll see that it's quite an abstract, a freeing process, but it really increases your design and composition sensibilities. So let's get to it. So this is the setup that we're going to use for our Notan exercise. It's just a layer at the bottom filled with pure white, and then a layer above that called dark, where we're going to do our painting, and a layer above that called frames. And in the frames layer, using just a rectangular, well, let me just fiddle around with the brushes first, get it right. Here we go. And there's a rectangular tool which allows you to quickly draw rectangled outlined boxes in Krita. So I'm just going around making randomly sized boxes to fill up the canvas and the frames layer. The reason, because this is just an exercise, it's actually a good idea to change up the canvas frames that you're working with. You don't even have to stay with rectangular frames. You can use circular ones or oval ones. This is just an exercise to develop your design sensibilities and composition skills. If you want to do environment-focused Notan, that's fine as well. This is sort of why I've got mostly landscape boxes, but the main idea of this exercise is to let your mind be free and just come up with interesting compositions and designs. They don't have to be anything at all. Okay, so in the dark layer, I'm using the ink brush that I like using with a bit of taper, 100% opacity. And basically we just go through painting our Notan dark versus light arrangements framed within each of these canvases. Now, the way I'm thinking about approaching these is with absolutely nothing in my mind about what the arrangement is that I'm going to be doing. Of course, I'm just putting marks down, seeing how they balance the light against the dark, and trying to get something that seems to be pleasing to me. Along the way, of course, as you start doing these, because humans are so good at pattern recognition, you'll actually start to see things within the marks that you make. And that's totally fine. If you see something, you like it, and you want to go with it and make it a bit more representational, then definitely go ahead and do it. Because, you know, that might become a thumbnail of your next great portfolio piece. So you never know. But the main idea is to just keep an open mind about the marks that you're making, and just think about balance of light and dark, positive against negative. Because when it comes down to it, any image that you create will heavily depend on this light versus dark arrangement. So let's practice it. And it's okay, and you'll notice in this video that a lot of what I come up with is horrible. I mean, maybe it isn't balanced, maybe it looks like nothing, and it has no potential, but what I'm doing is practicing my skills at looking at those kind of things. So don't worry if you're getting frustrated that things are looking really horrible, or that you're not getting a nice feeling about what you're doing. just keep at it, because at some point down the line, your mind will actually unhinge in some ways and get free, and it'll be free from the idea of wanting to do something representational, and that's an important thing when it comes with design, because often when we're developing artists, we always want to draw something and have it look like something, and that's fine, because that's going to be our focus for our careers for the rest of the time that we do this, is to make stuff look like other stuff. And it's this kind of exercise is actually really good for you, because you're actually releasing yourself from that pressure, but you're still developing incredibly strong important design skills that you need. These aren't thumbnails. I mean, they could end up being thumbnails, but these aren't thumbnails. I'm not approaching these as thumbnails. They're just arrangements of light versus dark. So one of the things that you can think about if you find that your marks are a little bit aimless while you're doing these is to think about specific design principles. So things like shape. In this one, I use triangular shapes to get myself started. The other fundamental design principles like balance or movement and rhythm, scale and proportion, you can basically just pick and choose from these and decide how you want to approach each Notan sketch using them, and it's very useful to do. So definitely try that out. Now I'm going to speed up this video a bit, because it will be incredibly boring to watch it at normal speed. Now the other, the way I'm actually making the white marks, the negative spaces on these drawings, is just to erase out of the black. I just find it a lot easier to paint with black and erase out of it. It gives you a little bit more control, and you can put down bold strokes and then erase out, and you're still left with the feeling of the bold stroke, but with a bit more finesse when you erase out. It's much easier, I find, than painting with black and painting with white. Also, you have to flip around using the color picker, or maybe you have something that switches foreground background color, so you could do that, but I just find erasing so much easier. And then what that means is the black, you actually have a selection of the black areas, the positive areas, that you may, it'd be easier to lock that if you want to take it into something else and start playing with it a bit more. So because this is only an exercise, it's something that you can actually do as a warm-up every day. I used to do that for quite a while. I've stopped doing it, but having to teach or having to show people sort of part of my process, I've realized that it's actually really, really fun thing to do, because there's so little pressure involved in doing these. And if you come up with something that you actually really like, you can take it a little bit further. But as a warm-up, it's great. I know people do lots of different kinds of warm-ups that involve, whatever they're into, maybe characters or environment thumbnails, or whatever it is. But I always tend to see warm-ups that are very representational, and I think that kind of defeats the purpose a little bit of warming up. You're trying to let your mind be loose, not linked to any particular idea or thing. So at least when starting these things, you can really try and not have any judgments about what you're going to do. And these overall these number of thumbnails, I think I did in about half an hour, maybe a little bit more, but so that's not a lot of time for each one, maybe a minute, less than a minute for each one. So, or maybe a couple of minutes. So the amount of time that you spent on these is really there's no worries. How productive are you in half-hour blocks of your day? I've wasted more time, scratching myself in half an hour than I have than doing this. It'd be much better to do this than pick my nose for half an hour. So, yeah, maybe build it into your daily work program. Start off unhinged, get zen with your approach to making marks. And the thing I also love about this is how simple it is. There's no, it's just positive, negative. That's all you're focusing on, nothing else. And we're coming up to the end of the video, so thanks very much. Hopefully it'll be useful for you. Cheers. Alright, so now it's time to start talking a little bit about assignment 1. So what I'd like you guys to do, first off, is some Notan studies using 2 values only. Now, I want you to do 5 of these. So pick 5 environment pieces that you really like, and think about how you will boil them down into the absolute basics of their composition, using only black and white. Now, this may seem like a really easy thing to do, but actually it's not as straightforward as you might think. There are definitely decisions to be made on how to clump up your values in order to still get the right read for the composition. So that should be a fun little exercise. 5 of those. Use images, any images that you like, or I'll also provide a link to a folder which has some images that you can use instead. The next thing I'd like you to do are Notan studies, again, 5 of them, but this time I want you to use 3 or 4 values when you're doing the study. So think about how you're going to arrange 4 values, a black, a white, and 2 grays in between to show the composition of the pieces that you are studying. You can get a little bit more accurate with the values than you could with the 2-value one, but I don't want you to go full crazy detail on this. I still just want the overall read. I want it to be a little bit more accurate, of course. If you want to use texture when you're painting your values and soft gradations to create a little bit more of the atmosphere in the original image, then you definitely can. I'll recommend that, but I don't want you to go overboard with detail and mimicking all the value transitions, that you see. Just the major ones, using only 4 values. Also, you can just take the studies that you used previously and take them on a little bit further, if you like, or you can use 5 completely different images to study from. It's completely up to you, but I definitely do want to see both of these separately. And for the last section of the first assignment, I want you to do some 2-value Notan sketches from imagination, like in my demo, and I want you to do 100 of them. Yep, that's right, 100. I really want you to exercise those design principles within these little compositions. I want you to actually see that the more that you push, the more interesting things can come out. So that's why there are that many of them. They also don't take too long to do, so it's not too crazy. For traditional people, it might take you a little bit longer, but you know, yes, I'm sorry about that, but you, I'll leave it up to you to decide how you actually want to approach this. But the basic idea, as you saw, was dark versus light, and purely thinking about those design principles in the previous video. That's really what I want you to think about. I don't want you to think about drawing something specific. I want you to get away from that. I want you to look at balance and, you know, contrast and harmony and rhythm and repetition, movement, shape, and just get a sense of feeling for a nice design in each one of these that you like, a nice arrangement. And the reason I haven't even talked about different types of composition in the demo, like, you know, the rule of thirds or the golden mean or diagonals and verticals, the reason I haven't even gone to that level is I don't actually want you guys to think about it. I want you to actually build that knowledge by doing this exercise. We can get to some of those rules that will help you in later weeks. Definitely, they're useful, but this is purely about composition and design sense. So really, really want you to be free with this exercise. So yeah, those are the 3 exercises for... Oops, I made a little mistake. That's 2 values. These are the exercises for the first assignment. You've got a little bit longer, as I said. So the deadline for this one, I think you'll have a little bit over a week and a half. The deadline for this one, all the details will be in the post, like where to upload, the specific time and date, and things like that. If you could arrange your pieces like this for the study, so with the original and your study next to it, for all of these, and also have all of these in the same image file. If you could save it as a flat PNG or JPEG or something like that, that would make it a lot easier for me. Please also name your file with your Crimson Daggers avatar, nickname. Again, details for this will be in the post on the class thread, so just make sure you check that out. I recommend worldtimebuddy.com if you want to figure out what time zone the deadline is for you, but there's a whole bunch of ways and info out there on when this is, so I expect you to not make mistakes. So yeah, I hope you guys have a lot of fun with doing this exercise. It is mostly just study and also exercising your compositional and design sense. So in terms of critique, there may not be a lot of critique this week, but I definitely will go over what you guys do and see, you know, maybe where you guys had the most problems or what you learned. I really want to capture these sort of things in the live group stream. So yeah, go at it and just have fun, and yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. Later.